Hardy.
Hi.
What's up, Hardy? How are you?
You.
Man, you guys are doing amazing things. Seriously, you guys are doing amazing things. I'm so happy that you invited me on, and I'm excited to rock it.
Well, so I want to, because the interesting thing is, I know you in your new world,
Yeah.
but in your world running a real estate team and being a complete real estate badass, like that came before Digital Muse. So if you can just give our listeners a really quick overview about that period of your life so they have some context and what led you to where you are now, then I'm going to give a little context over where you are now. Do you mind starting there?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, Keri and I have something in common. She is from and does business from the area that I grew up in. So I originally started my real estate career in Washington, D.C., like the Washington, D.C. area where you're at. You know, I grew up, I was born in D.C., grew up in Falls Church and Arlington. Went to Falls Church High School. Like it was great. Yeah. But it was 2001. So I've been licensed like 19 years now at this point. Had a business down there, grew a team down there, lost my ass in 2008, and then decided me and my wife was like, okay, we just lost everything. So it was like, well, let's go find a beach. And so we did that literally.
That's a really good idea when you're starting over.
That's it. We took every savings we had. We literally didn't work for a year. And look, granted, not everybody could do it at the time, but like we just lost everything, right? So we started back up in California, grew the team again. Blessed to say last year we did like 257 deals in San Diego. Nice. Yeah. And believe it or not, so here's an interesting thing that I think a lot of people will love is out of the 257 deals, 22 of the deals came specifically from Instagram. Not Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn or anything. It came from one specific pillar, which is pretty crazy. But so the agents, though, because we started the other agency, Sharon and I, they have the benefit of us growing their accounts and stuff like that, right? So that's how that came about. Is we've kind of cultivated their following over the last year and a half. It's been about 18 months actually, so it's been pretty good.
Huge. 22 deals is, I don't know many people in the country who've been able to create that kind of traction. And to me, that 18 months is not that much time for 22 deals. Like if I told any of you watching right now, hey, would you like to get a deal a month on average? Anyone would be like, nah, I'm good.
But so like that's very true. And it's like, I think people can relate it to like farming. Right. So most of us know that it takes a minute, right, to send those postcards out like consistently before they know, like, and trust you and want to work with you and you finally land your first listing. It's kind of the same thing, like they have to, as long as you're doing great value, like on social and on Instagram in particular, they eventually will reach out. Oh, so check this out. You'll appreciate this, right? So obviously we're a big military town. I got like 5-6 bases here. Out of the 22, 6 of them were nowhere near San Diego. They were completely from other areas. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so here's the conversation. So this is really funny. So, because I always ask the agents like, hey, what did they say when they reached out to you? I'm just wanting to know because you want the data, right? You want how they reached out. And here's the conversation. Every single one of them said the same thing when they reached out in DMs. It's, hey, Keri, I've been watching your stuff for a while. That's it. Like, that's all. And so what we coach around, so Sharon and I always coach around is like, you just don't know who's watching, right? So it's, your interpretation of what your brand is and providing value and all that stuff. It'll eventually will land you something for sure. Because you're building a tribe, you're building an audience,
100%.
Yeah. And so the way it really started is, believe it or not, Sharon was my first client. It was 2018. It was like November, December 2018. He reached out to me. He knew that I was already growing my following on Instagram, just from testing different influencers and celebrities and things that I was trying to build as far as relationships.
Yeah.
And he's told his story many times before, and he's super transparent with this. He was at 9,000 followers. He wanted to get to the 10,000 mark so he could get the swipe up. He bought the bots and the fake followers. It completely ruined his account because Instagram, it's a no-no for them, right? They just don't like third-party stuff. and they do sweeps like very frequently. So they run software to essentially kill your engagement. And that's essentially what happened to him. He went from having like 9,000 authentic with high engagement to almost like having 200 followers. That's the engagement that it dropped to. Like,
yikes.
so the numbers were still there. The engagement was dead. So we decided we were going to scrap that account completely and start from scratch, that was an interesting conversation. He's like, what do you mean I got to get rid of like 12, 13,000 followers? I was like, yeah, we got to start from scratch so we can get that engagement back going. So that's what we did. And ultimately he just believed in the product so much that, he joined on, and the rest is history. We've been crazy. It's just been such a ride, but it's been really good as far as growing the brand.
So if I were to guess what the other real estate agents who are listening right now are thinking, I mean, they're like 22 deals from Instagram. Mm-hmm. How do I develop that level of success? I think there's so many people out there saying, hey, I can help you with your Instagram. I can help you with your social strategy, right? I get contacted all the time. But what I see you doing with some of my favorite people in the industry, it's very different. So talk a little bit about how you're getting these kind of results for people.
Yeah, what's interesting is, Keri, you've done a really good job of your personal brand, by the way.
Thank you.
You really, really have. So you and Dan are obviously geniuses in the space. You guys do so much for the real estate industry. But the cool thing is this: you definitely share a lot of vulnerability and certain experiences, right? With your life, with your kid, with your fitness goals. That we were at closing table, and I didn't mean to call you out, but girl, I love it. Like, I absolutely love the stuff that you do. And what I try to tell agents, and Sharon and I talk about this all the time, is in order for them to work with you, they got to know, like, and trust you, right? And that takes a lot of vulnerability with a lot of people that most people don't want to know. Like, they don't want people to know about them. And I think that's the major problem, because all of us, like on this call, right, on the Zoom, we know, and we probably have a ton of agents like on our profiles, like on our, as friends or followers or whatever. And literally all of the feeds look very similar. It's spam city. It's spam city. So it's coming soon, just listed. Look at me. I sold X amount. Like, it's just me, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing, I don't know anything about that person, right? And you essentially look like everybody else, right? And so for us, the main thing that we say is you have to be, it's almost like a 70-30 rule, right? Which is like 70% interest, likes, vulnerability about your family, things that you like, and then the 30% real estate or whatever other interests you have. Keri, I know for a fact, has a ton of other interests, obviously very well known in the space for real estate, but you got other things that you eventually might want to, talk about, whether it's charity or whatever. And that's why we always focus in on building around the person and not around the group or the name. Because when there is time for other interests to come up, then it's very easy for them to just be like, oh, okay, sure. I love Keri. Let me go ahead and, donate to her charity or whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Completely.
Yeah.
Well, when you think about, so I'm reading the comments in here and I love it because Sharon is 100% right. And I've experienced this in my own social media growth. Like, I think I put out this great piece of content and I'm like, 4 people watched it, right? So talk about how you build this enormous audience so that someone like a Sharon or like you or Jason Capital or some of the other people that I look up to that are in this space, they have the type of stage to really get attention and then to be able to generate deals and business and opportunity through that stage.
Yeah. So I think Sharon, I caught the very end of it. And, so like, I think he may have touched on it, which is like, entering the conversation in the mind of the consumer. Right. And some of the problems that they may have. I'm a big firm believer of, so I guess let's step back. Instagram is probably the most engaged platform that there is, just because that there is so many tools and like stickers, polls, questions, DMs. There's literally a dozen things to have a two-way conversation with an audience, right?
Yeah.
And Right. So the best thing that you can always do, and for all of us on here who have real estate businesses, you guys go through so much shit like on a daily basis. I mean, think about all the things literally right now that is like falling apart. Like seriously, there's so many lessons learned. It doesn't need to be like when you're on camera or you're doing a tutorial, it doesn't need to be so stiff in a sense of here are the 3 tips of buying a first home or whatever. You're literally experiencing things, and especially now more than ever, where social media is up over 35% right now as far as viewership.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's sitting at home watching you, and we're on a daily basis, we're having so many COVID related addendums, and it's like constantly changing, right? And you're having real life situations that are coming from your clients they're literally having meltdowns on the other end, right? Yeah. Which is something that you should give in a personal way and address that, that situation, so that way there's connectivity on the other end, right? I think, again, most of us are too worried about the very instructional type information versus real life scenario, if that makes sense.
It totally does. I think about some of the clients who have had the biggest crises, catastrophes, emotional responses to situations, and the ones who were the hardest to deal with in the moment are the ones, or who face the hardest situations, are the ones who are the biggest raving fans of mine. Because when you lean in to a situation like that, then people remember you for that. Hey, Kenneth is asking a question here, which I think you already kind of gave the answer to this, but I think it's just to be really clear. Should your account be under your name or your corporation's name?
So 2 schools of thought here, Kenneth. If you have a business, so like all of us, so like for me, I have Dean Aguilar Group's, business page, right? It has all the coming, essentially everything real estate related. Keri, I know that you guys too have that as well. And most teams do, right? So there's a lot of real estate related stuff. You have most of your clients following that stuff. That's great. When you're building a personal brand, it has to be around you, the person, and it should be. I personally like to use one primary account, so I don't really keep anything separate for me. I just a business. So you certainly, if it's going to be real estate related, just keep it under your team, and then build a brand around you. So it'd be Kenneth Powell, at Kenneth Powell. You could also do Kenneth. Look, in a lot of times you can't find your name because there's so many Kenneth Powells out there, right? So just variations of your name so people know obviously it's you. So like Kenneth.Powell or Kenneth_Powell, something like that, but definitely build it around you. I hope that answered it.
I was just thinking of different plays on Kenneth Powell. There's so many.
there really is. Yeah, there's so many. Like for me, even Dean Aguilar, I had to use. I went with Craig Ballantyne's strategy. So his is like real Craig Ballantyne, and which is crazy because there's not Ballantyne. Even the way he spells it is not like a very common name.
Yeah.
Right. But someone has it. So he had to use real Craig. And same thing with me. It had to be real Dean Aguilar, you know what I mean? But so just play around with it a little bit.
I had to be the Keri Shull.
That's right.
Like, really? Come on. So Jose is asking you a really good question. He's saying, what are some strategies you would suggest for free organic reach?
Okay. So let me start by saying a couple of things. As you know, even with Facebook, right? The organic reach is pretty dead. You know what I mean? So even the people who are following you that you connect with closely, there's a chance with their algorithm that, they bury your content. So it's becoming that way with Instagram. It's going to eventually be that way with TikTok, which Sharon and I are actually testing quite frequently lately. It just happens to all the platforms. Okay. So what I can say is this: with Instagram, everyone seems to think that it's this big complicated thing as far as like the algorithm. And it really, really isn't. Again, Sharon and I have a direct contact with Instagram, and they've laid out how it works. It's going to be super simple. You ready? Okay. If people engage with you and you have high engagement, they're going to show your stuff to more people. That's it. that is the level of engagement. So with that being said, right, because what happens is Instagram deems your platform like as a benefit to their platform. So then they essentially just show it and put it on Explore page, and that's how you potentially could go viral. the way that you build an organic reach is you have to do something that invokes like a two-way conversation with someone. So like if you're going to do just maybe even a standard picture, make sure that your captions with a picture is much longer. So explain. So like you can't put a picture and then just the caption say my life, you know, that's my life or something like, because it tells me nothing, right? There has to be a little story around the captions. And then even in the captions, you can ask for a call to action. So like, has anybody ever experienced this in their life? Please comment below because I don't want to be the only one. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So what happens now is you're going to get a laundry list of like just comments. And as long as you're engaging this is like a Gary Vee thing, right? So you guys understand, like, you know, you engage back with your audience. The algorithm says, okay, cool. These guys are having conversations with each other. Let me show it to that person more frequently.
Yes.
It's you know what I mean? It's super simple. You can do that strategy too, Jose, in your stories. And Sharon and I, if you ever follow him, he does it a lot more than I do, which is, and we got it from Jason Capital. Right? So Jason is a master at this, which is DM the word Shull, right? For some kind of call to action. So it could be like, you know, for a special preview, for my special opt-in link for this coming soon, take the virtual tour, DM me the word Orange County or whatever, right? Yep. And they DM you, it triggers the algorithm to say, hey, Keri must know Dean. I answer back, right? So now there's a two-way conversation. And then when I answer back, I'm giving the link for an opt-in so I can collect an email address. So now I'm building a list.
So smart. And it works because one of the things that I don't know who it is that taught me this, but it's a common thing. The confused mind does nothing, right? Mm-hmm. So when I was learning from Craig and Jason Capital, one of the things that I took away was, and the strategy that you and Sharon are using too, if you tell them do this, they know what to do. But if you say DM me, they're like, DM you what? And then they don't know what to say. They get nervous, right? Yep. So when you're specific, then the engagement goes way up.
Yeah. So look, I want to touch on that. That's really, we use that as well. What you just said, which is like, you know, when they're confused, the answer is usually no, or they don't know what to do. So we say the same thing. So I always say it, but here's when I use this is, so like in your guys' bio links, right? A lot of people like doing two things. Keri, we talked about this, but there's a place and a time. I would use these certain links in like your business page, but when it comes to your personal brand and you want a very specific call to action, I wouldn't necessarily use your personal website in your bio link, because what happens is if I land on, you know, Jose.com, I have to, I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm looking at an about Jose, about the team, careers, like there's so many tabs, right? And the same thing goes with Linktree. Like we talked about Linktree before, you know, sometimes with Linktree, the only problem is if you have something specific, maybe it's a listing that you want to highlight. It's just a great listing. Make it very specific to that, because with like something like Linktree, there's literally 13 options, right? So when the consumer has too many options, they choose none.
Right.
They just don't. Like, I mean, you know, what am I looking at? Should I go to your YouTube? Should I go to your LinkedIn? Should I look at your course? Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm like clicking off of it, right? And so that's what we always recommend is a singular call to action in your bio or in your stories. And that's when you can certainly use, for those of you who don't have like 10,000 followers and can't use this feature to swipe up, then use the DM feature, which is DM me the word specific. Oh, you're good. You're good. You're going to be there in no time. I know you. Yeah, following. I love it.
We need to talk about it again.
No worries. I'm going to come to your hood soon. I see. We were supposed to go back like a month ago. I'm so bummed. We're going to go on July 4th, so I'll come by and see you.
Are you really? That's awesome. I would love that.
Yeah,
that would be super fun.
Absolutely.
Siri's responding and saying, "I'm over here." I'm like, I'm not talking.
It keeps going. Look, first is your phone, now it's your tablet.
I know. I'm like, what's happening? Okay, so talk to them a little bit about how you leverage influencers, because that's ultimately what you're genius at, is like taking the the attention from somebody who has a huge audience and then generating that attention for your clients. So can you explain a little more about how that works?
Yeah. So, man, it's been quite a ride. You know, a couple of the people we've worked with in the past, you know, that have bought these types of, so like Dean Graziosi, Wolf of Wall Street, all these people have, this is how they're growing their influence, right? So you see these guys having millions of followers and it's not coming organically. So what I tell folks is it is going to be very, very super tough to, and I guess let me put it to you this way. Anybody who tells you the hashtags are what's going to grow your audience is lying to you. It's one thing to get hashtags and have like local hashtags to bring in local eyes, but to bring in followers at scale is very tough to do it that way, right? So there's really only two ways. One way is running ads. That's one way. The other way is going to be influencer marketing. So influencer marketing, essentially what you're doing is you're, just like Keri said, you're borrowing an audience of someone that has millions of followers and they are essentially shouting out Keri's account. So, you know, we've spent, shoot, man, it's been, I mean, all 18 months, that's all I've done. That's how Sharon and I linked up, is because I was growing my account, building relationships. And then obviously him being the man, he came aboard, and that our ability to build bigger relationships has grown, right? So I'll give you guys an example. So like, you know, we work with a lot of celebrities and influencers. So like, you know, Floyd Mayweather, Dan Bilzerian, 2 of the Kardashians, you know, stuff like that. Now, a lot of people are like, well, what does that mean for me? What it means is they run giveaways and shout outs to where they're shuttling tens, hundreds of thousands of followers in one given pop. And it's usually within a 3-day span of when that happens, right? And so there's a large influx of followers that come in. The thing is, though, there is an entire process and sequence around this. So like if Keri said, you know what, I want to build my network. I have so many projects that are coming up. How can we grow the audience? I want to speak on stage worldwide, not nationwide. Like you have a lot of things that you want to do, right? Yeah. Generally, you want to build an audience to be able to do that, because like I said before, with the Instagram sales that we had, 6 of them, we didn't even know they were watching us. And it's that one relationship out of the hundreds of thousands that you may get that changes your life forever. Like seriously, you know, so the one thing to keep in mind though, when we run promotions like those, is there's a drop off. So like, I'll give you an example, Keri. So let's say you're like, you know what? Kylie has 175 million followers. Let me get on a promotion like that. Here's X amount of dollars. Let's say I'm going to get 250,000 people. This is going to be great. You're doing this whole sequence around like what you're going to be posting, right? When the followers start to come in, because there's a strategy behind it. But when the giveaway or the shout outs are over, usually there's a drop off of like 20%. Okay. Sure. So yeah. So those are the things that you just have to, you know and work around. But for us, we like using a little bit more of a smaller scale and kind of build you up before we do any of that stuff.
Right. So because if you did it so dramatically and then the content wasn't in the right place to keep those people interested, it would not be good for the algorithm, right?
Yeah,
I want to say one other thing. You gave 2 options for growth. Both were good. The third, which most people do when they think about growth, is they go get a bot. They do what Sharon did.
Oh my gosh.
Sharon, right? That's what most people think of, though. Oh, I have this very nifty thing and it gets me all these followers, and that's a real problem.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, exactly. So it's not about. So when we talk about, so it's funny because it's become such a weird word, like followers. You know what I mean? What we're really looking at is engage raving fans. That's what we want, right? And so, you know, going that route for just having the number obviously makes absolutely 0 sense to anyone involved, right? So that's what essentially we do, is we use a large US-based audience to drive it to folks. And to be honest with you, it doesn't really matter about the count. It really more matters about the engagement. But Sharon always says this one thing anytime we're talking about clients about growth, which is, you know, we can bring you to the stage. We just can't make you perform. You know what I mean? So like the rest is up to you. So like I can reach out to Kylie's team and I can put you on a promotion, But if your stuff is no good, then they're going away. It serves you no purpose. It's just at that point, you just have followers, you know what I mean? And that's no good. That's why we have like for us, there's like a secondary piece that we do, which is called Brand Academy. And him and I coach like every single week, part of our deal, because you just need that, right? There has to be good content.
And that helps people show up and perform so that they keep their audience super engaged because they know how to be authentic and who to be, how to come across, and what to talk about that really is meaningful to them, but is going to resonate with the audience.
100%. And you do a phenomenal job of doing the sequences of like personal, business, things that you love doing. I just keep that up, girl, because you're doing an amazing job. By the way, you look great.
Thank you.
Did you hit your goal?
I'm 4 pounds away.
Oh, okay. Everybody on the call, can we keep Keri I know this is real estate. 4 pounds. Can we keep her accountable for 4 pounds? When are you supposed to hit that?
So my goal is to hit it in 2 weeks.
Okay, 2 weeks. Ed says burpees.
It said burpees. No, Ed, I don't want to do burpees.
Those are terrible. Those are the worst. But
yeah,
everybody's
running the mountain guy things. Yuck.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, if there's anyone out there who wants to get in touch because they are really committed to having fast growth with their Instagram, they want 22 transactions from Instagram. How should we get in touch with you?
Just, best way to do it is through Instagram. I speak a lot on there, like a two-way conversation. So just Real Dean Aguilar and just shoot me a DM. Okay.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here. I hope you guys got a ton of value out of that like I did. We have quite a few people on here right now. So reach out to Dean if you guys are interested in working with him. And I will hopefully see you soon, Dean.
Yes, you'll see me soon.
Okay.
Bye, sweetie.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the HyperFast Show. Subscribe to us if you want to make sure you get the latest and greatest HyperFast shows. And remember, we love reviews. Reviews help us bring better and better guests and improve our shows. So give us the good, the bad, and the ugly. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for staying to the end of our video. For more videos like this, click here. And if you're interested in learning more about personally coaching with me or the HyperFast coaching program, click here. If you're looking to get notifications when we do a new video, make sure you subscribe below. See you soon.